Okay, welcome to part 6 of the series where we're comparing Love2D, Monogame and Pygame to refactor the code done in this series of videos by KidsCanCode. So this one is based on on part 7 and part 8, so we're dealing with sound effects, music and text and scores here. The code for this is in my GitHub here. So we've got the episode 6 is where everything is now. On the front page here I've got the links for getting the content for the sound. So that's the music, the background music. I've also put in the sounds folder here a series of files that are, as far as I'm aware, not copyrighted in any way. That some of them I created myself, some I found in places like Open Game Art. If there's anything there that shouldn't be there, please let me know and I will remove it immediately. So BFXR, which is a way of making sound effects, no longer works because it needs Adobe Flash Player, which has now been removed from browsers, but you can download a version for Windows and Mac, so I'll put that in the description as well. So come back to the code. So we're now doing it in C# and Monogame today. First thing to go into is that on previous videos, whenever I've run either Love2D or Monogame, I have this problem where the game appears in the other screen and I have to kind of drag it across. It now appears here. I'll just prove that to you, then show you how it's done. So hit the play button and there it is. So we've got background music, we've got the bullets firing up here, you've got explosions, and if I get hit, of course I'm in debug mode so it won't die. And the score is being drawn up here, and more importantly it appeared on this screen. I found out in Love2D that I can do it by a very simple setting to the window. Pygame I can do it just by making sure that the IDE is in the screen I want it to start up in. Monogame, a complete pain in the backside. The only way I've managed to do it so far is to basically tell the window position to go into a new point based purely on my layout of my multiple screens. So this is based on the fact that this screen that you're seeing now is to the left of my main screen, and therefore I'm just using the mathematics behind the width of the screens to get it into the center here. I can't find any way of doing this genetically, so if you can find a way of doing it, I have searched Google multiple times with no joy. So if you come up with a way of kind of finding out where you are, how many screens there are and so on, then please let me know. But anyway, this works, but you will definitely not want this code, so comment it out when you are running the code, and then otherwise you'll find it's disappeared somewhere off the screen in a negative direction and you can't see a damn thing. So that was just the warning there. So what we're doing today is first of all to load some fonts and some images. So if we go to the load content, sorry, not images, fonts and audio. So we've got two things here. We've got a load audio and a load fonts. Now both of these rely again on the content manager. So we used this before. This is content mgcb to load in our images. We now have to use it both for fonts and for sound effects. So if I start that up, here it is. So what I've done here is to create, I already had an img or image folder. I've created a font folder and a sound folder, SND. If we take the sound initially, so you would create your new folder here first of all with new folder, call it SND, click on it, and then go to add existing item here, and then find wherever you have stored all your sound files and import them. The important thing is, if you take each one in turn, if I click on that one, to check that all of them, with the exception of frozenjam.og, are imported as a sound effect. If I click on that, you've got a choice of song or sound effect. So sound effect is for all of these except for frozenjam.og, which is the music file. And if you see down here, the processor for that, if I can just move that across, is song. So for that one, make sure that song is selected. Then they will be imported correctly. So this one, Frozen Jam, is a song. All the other sound effects are imported as a sound effect. Once you've set all these up here correctly, which is really just changing to make sure it's on the right one, because it doesn't kind of automatically do it, then you save it, and then you build or build the class, and it adds all the new stuff over here. Now fonts is slightly different. Again, create an empty new font folder called font, and then you can create these Sprite fonts here. So once this one has been selected, just to remember how to do it, you press right click on the folder, add, I believe it's a new item, yep, and then you have a Sprite font description here. So for adding a fonts, you right click, add, you get this common dialog, choose Sprite font, and then you just give it a name. So I called mine Arial 14, 16, 18 and so on, and then create, and obviously I'm going to cancel that because I've already done those. So create one for each of the sizes of fonts that you want to use. So I called mine Arial 14 right the way down to it Arial 64. Now once you've created them, you saved it, you've built it, you get then we'll close that one off. You get in your fonts here the Sprite font files that of the ones you've created. If I double click on one of them, you'll see that you've got inside it, it's basically just an XML file. So it's got, I've double clicked here on Arial 14.spritefont. So I've put the font name in here, which is the default one that it's given whenever you create them. You can now change that font to something different. So it might be one that you have in your fonts folder, it might be something that you have in a specific place, in which case you'd need to give it the path. And then, so what I've done for the Arial 14 is I've just changed it to the size down here. I've changed that, made sure that was Arial, which I believe was the default anyway. This I think I've left just as it was, and then just close it and save it. Now what I've discovered is that sometimes it works better to not use the kind of the like here putting 64 in. This one is Arial 14 and I've got size 14 in there, no problem. Let me just check. I'm fairly sure one of these, let's try this one. I did try 64 on that. Okay, one of them I'm fairly certain that I did at a different value, because of course when you're drawing these fonts out, you can actually specify the scale of the font. Now it looks like I did do it one for each font there, so that's no problem. So make sure you've got one file for each of the font sizes that you're going to use. And so if we now come back, once you've created everything in your content pipeline, then you can load the audio in by having a dictionary of sound effects, which you declare up here, private dictionary sound effect. Now also Monogame has this, what they call a sound effect instance, which gives you more control over the sound effect. So I've got two dictionaries. I've got a dictionary of sound effects and a dictionary of sound effect instances. So if we go back to the load audio, first thing we're doing is to load in the sound effect using content.load sound effects, and then the file name from where they're stored, which would be there, I believe. Yep. So those are the explosions and sounds and rumbles and whatever. So that's all going in there. Then I've excluded the background music because that is a song, not a sound effect. So these are just the sound effects. So it's the shooting, the shield, power, which are coming in at a later date, but I've put them all in at this stage, even though we're not going to use them for another couple of episodes, and explosions the same. So I just wanted to get them all in one hit. Now the sound effect instances, again, I've just created new dictionary and given it a value here. And then what we're doing is to go through each of the sound effects in the dictionary, and then we're adding it to the dictionary here using the key and the item value. So we're having to use the key value pair, string, sound effect, item in sound effects. So each one of these, we've got the shoot and the sound effect. So we're using shoot as a key and the sound effect itself here. So we're adding it to that second dictionary as an instance of a sound effect, and then setting the volume down to 0.2 of its current volume. So you can't do this directly on the sound effect. And also, if you put it into a sound effect instance, you can play it, stop it, pause it, all kinds of extra stuff that you can do. So it's well worth this one extra step to create it. Then I've done the same with the background music, except we're doing a content load song and then the Frozen Jam OGG song there. And again, I'm reducing the volume of that one, which comes under the media player, not sound effects. So this is because it's a song in the background, it's handled completely differently. This is also the same in Pygame, that it's done using pygame.mixer.music, I think, from memory. And Love2D, the only difference there is that you import sound effects as static and background music as stream, I believe. So all the different engines handle the sounds differently depending whether they are sound effects or repeating tunes, but this one's kind of a bit more specific, as you'd expect from C#. So media player is what's used for a song, whereas sound effects are used to play sound effects. So that loads everything in from the content that you have previously imported using content MGCB. So it's a bit of a pain setting it all up, but once you've done that, it works very easily. So let's go back to the load content. So we're loading our audio. Now the load fonts, let me just do that one. So what we're doing here again is we're just creating a dictionary of Sprite font, and then for each of the ones that we created in our font dictionary here, we're content loading in with a key for the size, so that if I want to specify I want to use size 24, then I just use that as the key, and it will load and use the Sprite font pattern that we set up for Arial 24, and that will load it in and use it. So let's now we've loaded them in, let's see how they work, how they're used. So the first instance really of using the sounds once we've loaded them in is in the shoot function. So let me go up to shoot. Right, so here's shoot. So as before, if we're allowed to use a new bullet because the sufficient time has passed, first thing I've done here, look, is to use the sound effect instances dictionary of the shoot sound. That's the key to the dictionary. Stop. In other words, if the sound's already playing, stop it. Then add a new bullet as we were doing before, and then once we've done all that set the bullet timer and so on. Then we do a sound effects instances shoot.play. So the reason for doing that is if we were pressing the spacebar down and shooting constant bullets, this sounds better by stopping and playing. Let me just give you a demonstration. I'll hit the key there and we'll just press the space bar down. So you've got the repeated shots there. Now what we'll do next is we will not stop that sound effect by commenting it out and then do it again. As you can see, it kind of hesitates. It doesn't stream properly because we hadn't stopped one sound before starting the sound again. So it definitely sounds better if you stop the shooting first and then start it again. The same principle is used in the check mob bullet collisions. So here we're checking whether a asteroid has been hit by a bullet, and the first thing we do if there is a hit by checking the intersection between circle or rectangle, we're then going to stop the shoot sound and then play one of the explosions, explosion 1 or explosion 2, and at the same time increase the score. So we're now using the radius of the circle of the mob. So the bigger the mob, we're going to be using a different explosion sound, and if it's below, if it's greater than a certain size, we use explosion 2. If it's less than 15, we use explosion 1, and that just gives that different sound depending on the size of the mob, which also influences the score. So the smaller the radius, the more score you get. So that's that one done there. Mob player, I don't think at this stage has any sound. No, I did do this on the Love2D version. At this stage I actually played a sound and delayed it, but I really shouldn't have done that until later on in the series. So if you want to see how you can play an explosion, by all means look at that, but you also have to kind of make allowances for the fact that that explosion won't be heard because you are immediately setting the shared game state to quit. So that's why I didn't bother in this one. Okay, so we've now got those in. So the next thing is, of course, the text. So we've added a new item to our shared one here. We've now got the score here, and we've also got the dictionary of fonts. So that's the dictionary we're using in our load. If I go back to shop main, in our load fonts, they are, it's the shared fonts dictionary that we're updating here with the new fonts. And then also in the shared, there's now a method in it which is drawString. So this will allow you to draw letters onto the screen using the sprite batch. So it takes the sprite batch, the text that you want to draw, the size, its position in the X and Y coordinates, the colour, and alternatively the alignment. So I've put it with a align equals centre spelt in UK spelling there. So you can choose whether to align the text in left, right, or by default in the centre of the screen. It uses a switch case here to tell what you have supplied as a line. So if you send in centre spelt in the US format, it still works. So we've got centre UK and centre US. Then we've got a right, and if it's not in one of those, it's assumed to be on the left. So we're changing some of the values here dependent on whether we want to display left, centre or right of the window by just changing the position X and that will deal with drawing it in the right place. Then we're using Sprite Batch Draw String, where you supply the font, the text, the position and the color. So that's a built-in draw string. I'm not sure whether that is Monogame Extended or normal Monogame, not too sure, but anyway, it doesn't matter, it works. Actually it must be normal because I don't have the extended library in here, so no, that's fine. It's the Monogame built-in draw string that we're using there. So that's what draws the string. If we go back to shut main, so in the draw function at the bottom here, we've already updated the score depending on bullets hitting mobs. So down here, after we have drawn the mobs and the bullets and the player, so player first, bullets, mobs, draw those, then we're using this shared draw string to put in the text, which is the score to string, the size that we want to draw it at, the position X, which I've set as 0 here, and Y, which is 10, and then the color.white. So that will draw the score in the center of the screen 10 pixels from the top. Now if we're in debug mode, we want to draw the words debug. Now when I started this off a moment ago, I had it drawing at the top, whereas in my Pygame and Monogame I was drawing it lower down. So what we'll do is we'll just change that position here from position as 20, which is again fairly close to the top. We'll make that position, let's make that shared.height minus 24, if I remember, was the value I used in Love2D and Pygame. So let's start that up again and see where it comes. Yes, it's down here now instead of up the top here. There we go. So we've now got the score showing here and debug mode showing down here instead of as it was before, just up there. So that's now covers the updating and drawing of the score, and also the sound effects for the shooting and for the mob being hit by a bullet. So at a later date we'll be adding explosions, but that's it for now.